Okay, we are just about to start the Public Trust Review, our episode 6 today. So we will dive right in to our quick review. This is just a public trust foundational, kind of the pillars of public trust. Just a refresher: care, loyalty, impartiality, and accountability. Those are the four main pillars of building public trust, what it requires. And we're going to get to the next slide here. Dr. Tom Shanks is going to take us through this.
Okay, so as Kirk said, we have been talking about those four pillars because that's the way that the grand jury report was began. And so we're up to the place where, okay, what did the grand jury recommend? And what you're seeing come up on your screen are 18 action items that the grand jury put on the agenda for the city council in Santa Clara. And what we wanted to do was just to highlight the first few because they all deal with the same thing. So recommendations 1A, 1B, and 1C are all dealing with the number of meetings and what's reported from those meetings for the meetings between the city council and the 49ers. And the thing that's really unusual about this is the third one. The first two basically are saying what everybody knows who's in the council, that you have to record the meetings, you have to record that there was a meeting, what the general topic was, and so forth. What's new about this is they're recommending that the city record the meetings, or the council members record the meetings when they're having them, so that the public can be assured that those closed door meetings do not violate the Brown Act and satisfy a number of other concerns that people have because of the timing of the meetings right before the city council or the day before the city council meeting.
And just really
yep.
quick, just to put a fine point on this before we move on to the next topic here, is this the reason this is really so interesting here is these are meetings which are typically, council members meet with people all the time, and they have a public record as a calendar, which is where you see how oftentimes they meet with them. We showed that in our last program, how many times, tens and tens of times during the year that they actually meet with lobbyists. But now they're saying we don't want minutes or highlights of those meetings. We actually want recordings so that the public has the ability to hear what nuances are said or what was communicated in those, to make sure that nothing's being hidden.
That's right, and to make sure that there are no decisions that are being made in the course of those two meetings out of the eyes of the public. That's a real concern.
Okay. Well, go ahead and finish up, and then we're going to move on to our next topic.
To read this document. It's worth everyone's time.
Yeah, so the 18 recommendations are in there, and we're just highlighting a couple of them. But this then leads us to the next, which is how do people respond to
how have people been responding? And we labeled these as defensive. There's a spelling, a typo in there.
Oh, sorry, that's my bad.
Defensive, I was an English teacher. Proactive and CYA. I think everyone knows what that is. And so then just quickly, if you look at Council Member Becker's press release, which we just found or saw early this morning, can you zoom in on that at all?
I can't zoom in on this without disrupting the slide, but just
okay, that's good. But basically, what this is in writing is what Councilman Becker has been responding all the way along, which is we have the facts are wrong. I wasn't interviewed, and I have to rebut some of this and make it all clear. But the outrage that comes across in this isn't backed up by evidence. So yeah, if this is inaccurate or giving the wrong impression, then tell people what the facts are.
Yeah, he said there's assumptions, gossip, cherry-picked evidence, rehashed stories and slogans, but there's nothing that actually counters or rebuts any of the data that was presented by the grand jury report.
And I think the other thing to remember is ethics is very much based on our perceptions, and public trust is based on our perceptions. And what this report is doing for the council is it's letting them know what the public perception is based on what people see and what people hear and what they read. And so in some ways with public trust, you don't need to talk to the person because it's based on the perception of that person's actions. Because we have no idea what they mean, what the action means, right? We just know what the action was.
And it's important when you say, I feel like this is, we're guilty until proven innocent, or all those things. This isn't a jury. This isn't a trial. No one's trying to be convicted, because remember, you can follow the law and be unethical. I think that's what the real message here is, saying that, I haven't been deposed, or I haven't been interviewed, or I haven't given my side of the story, is important in a jury trial where you are being charged with something, but no one's being charged with anything. This is a perception. This is about what you do to hold yourself beyond reproach. How are you conducting yourself in public, and what is the public seeing as a result of that? And that, again, I'm trying to summarize what you're getting at.
Right. No, that's right. And this by itself, the report by itself, is actually a tremendous opportunity, because these people have spent a lot of time in order to be able to tell the council how it's being perceived outside. And we often don't get a chance as members of a council to know that. And so how is another way to respond is the way that Mayor Lisa Gilmore has been responding, which is, I think, to ask herself and to ask the council to consider, how can we be better? Now that we've been given this feedback, how can we be better? Let's not just deny the feedback, but let's see what the positive steps are that we can take. So it becomes an opportunity. And this is a 6-point plan to focus on anti-corruption. And every member of every council should be concerned about doing these things and should be doing these things.
And this, again, just as a business person, when Yelp is a way for public to give me feedback, and sometimes they give me positive, sometimes they give me negative feedback. And to me, any bit of feedback you get is people taking time to give information to you. What you do with it is up to you. But I receive all of that very, very, I try to at least constructively and hear what they're trying to get at. They had a bad experience or whatever. And I think the same is true here. The grand jury is saying, this is information that you can do what you want with, right? You have to act on it by February, whenever it is, but you can do how you interpret this is up to you. But this is what we're finding, and this is what's being shared in the public, and this is what you need to be aware of.
Right. And an ethical leader and a wise and experienced leader will look at that report, and maybe you say in a press release or to your public, this is outrageous, I'm really angry about it. But in private, you should be asking yourself, okay, clearly something isn't working here in terms of how we're communicating with the public. What should we be doing so we don't fall over this obstacle again and wind up in this same place, which is with a crisis of public trust?
And then the last item here on the slide.
Yep. So the last item is the city staff's response, which is always going to be measured and take a long time to respond. And that's what that is saying, that the staff won't be ready until sometime in October, late October, I think it said.
Well, no, it said they have 90 days.
October. Yeah, they have 90 days to do a response. But in the last paragraph that's there on the screen, see, it says October 18th.
That's the next council meeting, I believe.
Okay.
That's the Tuesday.
They are. So they won't be ready by October.
They won't be ready
18th.
for that.
They have 90 days. That's right. And again, that's what we would expect. But this is the time, one of the times, when the council should direct the staff to what its priorities are. And right now, its priority should be this report. And so, yes, the staff may not be completely prepared, but it's more important because public trust is on the line. Okay, and then this is a courageous response. You may have seen the response of the chief of police the memo that he sent to the district attorney. And in that memo, it was, he wrote it after the report came out officially, and was concerned, as everybody who's read it is concerned. And one of the things about this letter that we find courageous is what he says in that red paragraph, the paragraph lined in red, that the 49ers, their typical approach is to attack, right? So I've read unwarranted personal attacks about the grand jury members from 49ers representatives. It's the same negative behavior we witnessed in the city for some time. When the team is questioned about its actions, their actions, they immediately attack individuals and they challenge their motives and their integrity. And then he talks about who the targets have been. And what's important about that, he says, is the 49ers are sending a disturbing message. If anyone challenges the team, they'll be publicly attacked, and that includes the grand jury. And that is a serious problem for the public officials who are trying to get people to be involved, to come forward, to tell the truth, to blow the whistle and all of that. And he's saying this is having a chilling effect, or it can. And the district attorney has to pay attention to that. At the end here, which I actually can't read, can you read what it says?
Yeah,
there?
it says the civil grand jury report has a similar warning for us. Therefore, your office must investigate a power that the city doesn't have. I offer to work with you. Basically, he's just saying this: the police department and the city, his resources will support any DA activity if they can, but they don't have the resources to do this properly. That's what I heard.
Right. No, that's right. And he's also saying we don't want to move into a place where there really is corruption going on. Right? We want to remain a city like the city has been, and the only way perhaps to do that is to have an investigation like this and to see what happens.
And our last slide is we just took a snapshot at, this is about a week ago when expenditures were listed.
Right. And so this is, while all of that is going on with the grand jury report, as you know, lots of money is being spent on this election. And the money that's in the voting bloc camp, that's all pretty much coming from the DeBartolo Corporation and the 49ers. The money that's in the Gilmore camp, although I probably wouldn't call it that, I think they're all independent council members.
Yeah.
It is 216,000. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's because your window is over the number. That's why.
Yeah.
It's 216,000, mostly from the related corporation. And again, look at in the top line, the difference in the amount of money that's able to
order of magnitude. It's a factor of 10. Yeah.
And next week we'll be looking really closely at all of this, how the money is being spent, where the truth is in these advertisements that you're being bombarded with. And so come back and we will tell you the truth of these as best we can, and in a way that is impartial. Because as we said before, I don't vote in the city of Santa Clara. I'm not supporting anyone.
Nor do I.
That's right. That's right.
Neither of us do.
But
we've actually, I've actually been chastised for that. Why am I messing around with Santa Clara? You don't even vote here. I get that a lot. Yeah. And to me,
the answer is you run your business in Santa Clara.
Yeah, my business is Santa Clara, and I'm a neighbor to Santa Clara, and we're all a community. The lines blur from one city to another, and you shouldn't have to live in a city to care about it. So that's where we are. We also have a YouTube channel, which I'd like to pitch. If you go to Public Trust Review, you'll search for us. It'll also be a link on our Facebook page here. We might stream to that directly next time. I'm not sure yet. It depends on how many likes or subscribes. So if you would rather see this on YouTube rather than Facebook, head on over to YouTube and click subscribe, and that'll tell us where we should be streaming this to live. Okay. Great. Until I think our next episode will be Tuesday, not Monday. Monday's a day off. But we'll be gathering some of those flyers and data for you next week.
Great. Okay. Have an ethical day.
I'll take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.